How's it going? Back with another video on the race for St. Pete Mayor 2021. Um, we have a debate right here, about an hour long. Should have some interesting information in it. Hopefully, it's only between the two top candidates, Ken Welch and Robert Blackman. I showed this graph one of the last times I uploaded a video. Ken Welch is pretty high up there, as you can see. Even when you adjust for the undecided voters, it's still pretty, it's looking pretty good for him. Although, of course, polls can change. These polls were a month ago. I was hoping to get a new set of polls before I did this video, but nothing's come out just yet, and the election is 10 days away, 11 days away, November 2nd. And that said, if you haven't turned in your ballots yet, or if you plan on doing mail-in voting, I would definitely recommend getting those out in the mail ASAP. ASAP. Yeah, I'd talk a little bit on. This isn't really what I was looking for. I probably won't get to actually some of the other candidates running. I mentioned in the previous video, one of the previous ones, we had matchups between Richie Floyd and Jeff Danners, I believe, Copley Gerds and Bobby Shaley. There was Gina Griscoll and Mayoral Summers, I believe, and then Lizette Hanowicz and Tom Mullins. I believe those were the four council races that are up. Some of them are pretty close, according to the previous polls. All officially nonpartisan, but of course, I think just about everyone has some party affiliation. So something to keep in mind if that's something that you look for. Although it's in local elections, it's more important, I think, to look at what they've done and what they want to do than to look at partisan leaning, because when it comes to local politics, it's a little less. It's not the same as national level politics. It's not the same. It doesn't translate the same. Like Robert Blackman, he's a Republican, but he's not. He's not exactly the same as even like state level Republicans or national Republicans. Are kind of different. Politics, it just plays out differently in local elections because local areas have more, a denser population, obviously. So, and a different, it's different. I don't know how to describe it, but you have to appeal differently to a city population than you would a state or federal population. It's more condensed. All right, so we're going to just jump into the debate. I do have it at 1.5 speed. Maybe I should lower that. Only 1.25. So they had planned on doing a debate sooner, but Ken Welch contracted the coronavirus, and so it was a little bit delayed, which is why it's kind of late. This was October 19th, just a couple days ago. So. I think it's an important part too. As St. Pete grows, or as any city grows, it tends to leave the bottom people behind. Uh, Kind of a consequence of wealth inequality and such. Um, so I guess part of the issue is, how do you keep some housing affordable? How do you make it affordable to live in the city as it's able to build up and grow? I feel like it's kind of if you can't attack someone's past or the progress that you think they made or haven't made, then I guess that's a good way to do it. To say, oh well, that's a past and it's not relevant. But I think somebody's record, especially a 20-year record, is super relevant. If they hadn't actually achieved anything, then you can point that out and actually use that in your favor. But if you can't, then it's probably best not to talk about it at all. It is kind of early, but I guess they're already kind of throwing shade or muckraking, as they call it in the political science world. So I guess it's worth noting that he didn't say exactly what would happen to the officer. Um, yeah, this also seems to be a national trend, like a small uptick in violence or an uptick in crimes, I suppose. He touts the science center as one of his biggest accomplishments. Like it's really cool. I mean, I went to it as a kid, but I don't I don't think it's that big of an issue. You know, like I like personally, like it'd be nice to have it in existence, but I don't know if it's that high on the list of things to focus on. I also don't know exactly how it gives people more opportunities to shy away from some kind of crime. Uh, I feel like a lot of that would come out of the classroom. You know, I feel like that's the best way to keep students engaged and provide any kind of opportunity. Because I mean, not everyone's going to get to the science center. I mean, when you're talking about an entire city, quarter of a million people, how many of them actually make it to the science center? But I mean, if it's several miles away and it's technically inaccessible, then it's not really a option. Imagine if you live, you know, was it over by was it the Sunshine Skyway, wherever that highway, right where the interstate, I guess, takes off there. Like it's a bit of a drive. I mean, you're going to drive 25 minutes to, or I don't know, however long it is. I mean, you could, but like it's not an easily accessible option, I guess is the point. But I also want to throw out, this is my first time watching it, so or watching this video. So I'm watching this live, so to speak, or whatever the saying is. I'm pretty sure if you check crime statistics, it actually had been decreasing quite a bit since the 90s. Uh, the recent uptick, I'm sure it's somehow related to the pandemic and everything that's come from it. It's also only been on the console since I want to say January of 2020. So it's, you know, yeah. So this is on YouTube. I'm guessing there was some kind of issue on their part. I don't think the sheriff initially supported body cams, but that's more of a recent opinion of Bob Galtieri, or a recent policy change of his. That doesn't make any sense. Of endorsements 16 years ago, uh, 'cause, the sheriff Bob Galtieri is the current sheriff, and as far as I know, his endorsement came this year. So yeah, so real quick, that he says he's not a big fan of talking about endorsements, and then immediately brings up an endorsement. As far as I know, this is a false claim. It was trending shortly after. Well, it was trending locally, I guess, shortly after the debate. But there's no evidence that this was a forced thing. It was just something that the chief did, as many police chiefs around the country did, or police officers and such. I, I guess I don't know. When it comes to Robert Blackman, I know his odds look pretty bad, if I'm being honest. So I guess if he wants to try to overcome that steep hurdle, he has to go on the attack, But uh, not the best attacks. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who told him to just make stuff up, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. I think if anything, it's going to have a similar result that we saw with in the primaries when it was Darden Rice. She put out attack ads against Ken Welch, and it effectively ended her campaign. Uh, Polling just dropped after that. Support dropped, and still finished third, I believe, but it was a distant third. I'm going to guess Robert Blackman says to go to the Science Center. I think part of the issue is, I guess this is just kind of my own opinion, but the issue isn't necessarily policing so much as it is a sense of community, probably. And I think that's where funding for community centers and local neighborhood opportunities would probably be more effective than just sending more cops out there, especially when you consider that the source of drug trafficking and stuff like that. It's all an economic opportunity, so you're gonna want to replace that opportunity. or provide a new opportunity, a better opportunity. I think it's a big one. I've been renting for a couple years now, and uh, yeah, it's going up. It's a little attack, but it doesn't hit. I guess I don't know, the average person might not know that Ken Welch isn't on the city council. I mean, I don't think the average person. Well, I suppose you could say that somebody running for mayor should be up to date with what's going on with the city council, but I don't know. I guess if it was, I don't know. I guess that's up to people's personal opinion on that one. It's just kind of a, I don't know, weird attack to me. I will say, before I got my current apartment, I was looking at possibly buying something, although I wasn't too serious about it because I wasn't expecting to be able to afford anything. Uh, and which ended up being the case. But the only thing I was able the only thing I could actually consider buying was a condo, and even that was almost outside the range. Yeah, this is I don't know, unnecessary. I wish politics could just be, this is my policy idea, this is your policy idea. Let's debate the policy idea. You know, that would be nice. for the last year and a half. I think it's interesting. He attacks Ken Welch for having not accomplished enough over his time period as a county commissioner, but gives himself a pass, I guess, for his time as a city councilor for having not accomplished some policy objectives. Bit of a double standard, I suppose. Hypocrisy is something. I don't know if it's the hypocrisy that he's talking about. I don't know. That would be Darden Rice. I think she raised the most, although it didn't really pan out in terms of getting votes. I think it's worth noting that high fundraising doesn't equal a surefire win. Like you look at the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton brought in a lot of money. Didn't work out. I don't think getting funds from outside the state or the city is necessarily selling out. You can donate to politicians from across the country who share your belief in Congress or maybe in another district in Florida, whatever it may be, just because you support their policies. Doesn't mean they're selling out. Not necessarily. And yeah. I will add though, I guess if he's getting, if you can, I don't know if this is public information or not, but if you can find maybe like PAC groups that are donating to him, you can try to tie something to Ken Welch. But I'm I doubt he's getting funding all that different from other state Democrats or state politicians. Looks like I missed a question. I think I missed something. I remember him. Uh, I would add on to that that and definitely politics in general is not an easy process, not as easy as it could be. When you consider all the different public interests involved and lobbying groups, the political fragmentation in the country, uh, even at the local level, like our city council isn't always completely in step with the mayor, and so there's some friction there sometimes. The city is almost never on the same level as the state government, and it's all that can make it difficult. So it shouldn't be difficult, but it is, unfortunately. Although I think, if I remember correctly, part of the way that at least the federal government was designed was to actually kind of hinder uh, policy or legislative policies and uh, having them getting passed through Congress. It wasn't meant to be a super fast process because obviously um, some policies can, change a person's life or the way that they live or whatever. So, you know, you don't want to just rush through it without considering the ramifications of it and so forth. But at the same time, you don't want to take years and years to fix an issue. I mean, you can look at, I guess, if you're looking at a federal issue, you could look at immigration, which has been, I, I don't, I don't know what, I think the last time there was any serious immigration legislation was in the early 2000s, but there's still a bit of an issue. It's not as bad as some people make it sound, at least in terms of, an invasion or whatever. But it's definitely a broken uh, process that needs to be fixed uh, at some point. It sounds like his wife was really qualified for it, but it definitely uh, doesn't look great. I'll say that. Um, that probably would be a better area of attack from uh, Robert Blackman, but uh, I don't know. He seems to not want to take any legitimate attacks, I guess, or any like real digs. I don't know. I mean, it's yeah, it's up to I guess people's personal opinions on that one. Yeah, that's another thing. How can you call for affordable housing and affordable rent prices when it would essentially have to work against your own self-interest, which um, I don't I don't know if you can really trust many people to do. In my opinion, I guess I'm kind of cynical in that way. So I don't know how you're supposed to work in government full time without some sort of income. I know some government jobs don't meet around, or like some, I guess, legislative jobs, they don't meet the entire year. So you could work a separate job to cover costs, but at the same time, I don't know exactly what the schedule is for a county commissioner, but yeah, I don't know, if anything, I would attack, which he kind of did early on or earlier, but I guess you'd want to attack maybe donations from, or like, what do they call it? Yeah, just donations from super PACs and, uh, you know, stuff like that. That might, negatively, or it might, what's it called? It might influence your decisions here and there, stuff like that. I was gonna say, I thought he worked for his dad's company or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Even if it is, this is kind of a dumb issue. If he's make, it depends, I guess. What is the yearly salary of a county commissioner or the yearly salary of a mayor? You can argue that they make too much, but um, which I don't think you should be. You shouldn't become rich being a public servant. I can agree with that completely, but you should have enough to survive at least. I mean, at the bare minimum, you should be able to survive. That should be interesting. I mean, it sounds like that from my takeaway from what he said was that DeSantis essentially kind of used his plan, maybe not, you know, on purpose, but like the plans of each person match up, I guess. I don't know if that's the best way to move forward from his. I don't know. Like I think I'm if I were in his shoes, like he's got a very difficult battle trying to win St. Pete. Like St. Pete's definitely getting bluer and bluer, and then tying yourself to DeSantis. I, I I don't know if that helps or not. Uh, I mean, uh, I wonder. Just real quick, I want to see if I want to see what for what Pinellas County. Pinellas County vote for. So it appears as though Pinellas County, that little bit right there, in fact, voted for Andrew Gillum. I wonder what the I don't think they have a breakdown by county, but the only reason I look at this is because if DeSantis had won this county, and um, maybe it would make more sense to connect to him. I feel like DeSantis had I don't know, he's become kind of a bit more. I don't want to say polarizing, I guess, but I don't know. It's risky connecting yourself to him. I don't know if it's going to help or hinder his chances here, at least for Pinellas County or for St. Petersburg. You know, after a pretty bad summer, yeah, things are looking better. But I don't know. It's I guess he's I don't know. Maybe he's got his eyes on a more statewide office. Maybe he doesn't want to talk about Ron DeSantis's past, but uh, is okay with Ken Welch's past. But he only wants to focus on the job he's running for, which would be I don't know. Might be interpreting that wrong. I will say it's unfortunate, but DeSantis is kind of a big player in the culture war that's going on, and so if you jump too much into that, you're gonna probably permanently taint a potential voter base. I feel like very few people can uh, do what DeSantis is doing. Like I don't know of any other uh, Republican politicians that can kind of that are able to do it. I guess, and I think some people might not consider DeSantis a viable presidential candidate, or maybe they think he's going to be knocked out next year. But he's. I think it'd be foolish to underestimate um, his support, at least for the moment. I mean, things change all the time, but I think it's worth noting too that They both were serving in different uh, governments, so to speak. Like Robert Blackman is the St. Petersburg City Council. Ken Welch is on the uh, commission for Pinellas County. So, you know, he was working with people from that, you know, governed what was happening in not just St. Petersburg, but Dunedin, Clearwater, all the other municipalities within. So it's a little bit different. Different, you know, just yeah, it's just different. Like for example, Dunedin and Clearwater, they're they have different governments, for example, different political leanings. I mean, basically. Doesn't want to get involved in partisan snare. I think it's worth noting that Pinellas County, when you look at the most populated counties in Florida, was I want to say among the top in terms of lower case counts, lower deaths. So was it a pain? Yeah, yeah. But was it effective? You know, it looks like it bore out in the numbers. Yeah. It's definitely a riveting debate. If any of these debates actually change your mind on who to vote for, leave a comment because I've seen a number of debates, both locally, state, and federally, and I don't think I've ever had my opinions changed. I I personally I don't I see debates as kind of a what do you call it? Like a I want to say a show in a way where they can kind of put on their it's gonna sound awful, but they put on your best act, so to speak. Whereas what's really worth looking at is what they have accomplished or what they've called for, what they want to do. You know, what's their actual record? You've got like with Ken Welch, you've got 20 years. You can look at um, what he's been for or against, the things that he's passed that worked or didn't work. I mean, you've got Robert Blackman. You still have a year and a half or so. You can see what he's called for, what he hasn't called for, what he's been against, and then that itself really should dictate uh, who you align more with. Because you can say, "Oh, I agree with this policy idea," or "I agree with you know, I agree with Robert Blackman. He should have ended the shutdown earlier. Should have, done this." Or I agree with Ken Welch. We should have, uh, you know, the science is important and should be followed. Then you should base your decisions essentially off of that, I guess, and the decision that they made based off of those uh, principles and stuff. Of course, that's just my opinion, though. Everyone's got their own way of looking at politicians. Yeah, I forget sometimes that Rick Kreisman he was born in Michigan, if I recall correctly. Um, I wonder. Let's see, Rick Kreisman. Let's see if he has a Wikipedia. He has a Wikipedia page. Yeah, Detroit, Michigan. That's my dad's side of my family comes from Michigan, around that area. That's interesting. Looks better with a beard. I'll say that. I remember his old picture that was on here. It was weird, different. I wonder if Bill Foster. He was from St. Pete, but Rick Baker probably no. Rick Baker, Chicago. Oh, fun fact. This is where my mom's side of the family, or part of my mom's side of the family, came from, and that's about as far back as we go. All right, back to the debate. To be clear, I don't mind people from out of the city running for council or mayor. What really matters is uh, a drive and a passion to make the city better and to help its people, and a track record to show for it. I do wonder what St. Pete will look like in 50 or 60 years with the say like the global temperature increases by a half a percentage point or a full percentage point. When you consider the you know melting of glaciers, melting of permafrost and all that stuff. It should be interesting. Perhaps little scary, especially as if we get hit by a bad hurricane. I can't imagine the storm surge in that situation. endorsements can actually go a long way. If you look, I hate to keep referring to national politics, but when you look at, for example, politicians that Trump endorses, they tend to do better. You know, depending on who's doing the endorsement, it can make a difference. Of course, if you're lacking in endorsements, you might want to attack the idea of endorsements, but um, I don't know. If anything, I don't know, he should probably try touting his endorsement from, I think it was Rick Baker that endorsed him. I mean, Rick Baker, but back 4 years ago, he came real close to becoming mayor again. Uh, NIMBY as in not in my backyard. That last part's a good question. Yeah, we're preserving older buildings. There used to be this building downtown. I don't know if it's still there, but it was an old post office building, I think. I don't remember if it got torn down or not, but it looks really cool. And I had that old 1920s kind of look to it. And I feel like not many of those buildings are around anymore. It sounds like I'm not the only one that thinks that. Although, I mean, do they need to be kept? Or should they be kept? You know, it's up to the individual, I suppose. Isn't that technically touting a sort of endorsement in a way? I wonder if that applies to writers as well. I got a couple of novels on sale. I wonder if I can get some kind of subsidy for that. I forgot about who gets the most votes. So didn't really work out too well for him in the primary, and it doesn't look to be working out too well now. Although things can change. Um, it surprises me sometimes that he's not the only one that does this, but some politicians will they'll try to defend their position with arguments that fall apart very easily. And I don't understand why. Is it it's either poor planning or poor advisors? I don't know for sure, but um, if anything, like what you should be doing right now isn't saying, well, the other guy does it worse. You should be saying, yes, I take donations, but it doesn't impact, you know, my ability to legislate. And you can see that here because I voted, in favor of this and that. And things that you wouldn't expect me to vote for because of this donation. But They did say not to rehash the old argument, but I guess we're going to do that anyways. Uh, It's probably right about that, but I will say it's unfortunate that that's the way politics currently are in America. I know there's some people who are pushing to you know promote politicians that don't take money from corporations or companies or super PACs or from Wall Street or pharmaceutical companies and various industries because and I can understand it. I agree with them. It's hard to because like these politicians across the country, not just locally, but all should be uh, representative of their constituents and their voters. You know, not their donors. And we were seeing this play out nationally, at least frequently more than ever since I want to say it was after Citizens United in 2010. Uh, Special interest groups are able to donate even more money to candidates through these super PACs and through these other sort of loopholes. And of course, like not every super interest group is the same. Um, one interest group is like the Sierra Club. They're big on environmental concerns, and another group would be like the NRA. So they're not the same. Definitely on different sides of the political spectrum, but they're able to spend money. You know, getting politicians to advance their policy goals, and oftentimes those groups have the financial backing to have a larger or more loud of a voice than individual people. And I think some people are catching on and saying, "Hey, this isn't a great idea," but at the current moment, um, doesn't seem likely to change because it's the same situation where in order to really turn that back, you would need legislatures and Congress to vote in their own self against their own self interest. Uh, you know, lose out on all that money. But yeah, that's part of a much larger issue that goes beyond St. Petersburg, I'm afraid. I think it's also worth it if voting for a politician that doesn't take a lot of corporate money or you know super PAC money. It's worth looking at their small dollar donations. People who give them $50 or less, because those are generally speaking going to be individual donations from individual people. So whoever has more of those will have more, ordinary people support. And one example of that I believe was Richie Floyd. I think he got a lot of small dollar donations. Same talking points. technically they're both running as nonpartisan. Although I guess with Pinellas County government, that might not be nonpartisan. Uh, that would probably have been a better attack from the beginning than some of the attacks that he's had. Especially, yeah, I mean that. Yeah. Uh, although no, it is kind of interesting. Now we're going back to uh, what did he say on Twitter 10 years ago? Sounds to me like Robert Blackman's trying to do cancel culture. It's an interesting way to phrase it. I did this when I was between 17 and 22. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't consider jokes from 10 years ago to be that big a deal. Um, it could be emblematic of a bigger issue, but I don't know. I mean, there's not enough information available publicly to know that for sure regarding Robert Blackman. I've never heard of some of the points that he made about Ken Welch about the transgender issue and the gay marketing issue. I've never heard those or heard of those. Not to say that they aren't true. I've never seen them brought up. Uh, I will say I don't remember if I read that Ken Welch was previously Republican. I would assume that would be on here. I guess he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Well, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if Ken Welch. I mean, I would be a little surprised, I guess, if he was previously Republican. Um, I wouldn't expect it. Although, I don't know, Pinellas County does seem to have a lot of, former Republicans in it. I mean, look at Charlie Crist. It also would kind of go towards explaining some of his endorsements because he does have, here we go. He does have a lot of Republican endorsements. When you consider, yeah, we got Ken Burke, clerk of the court, Deborah Clark, election supervisor, sheriff Jim Coates, former sheriff, yeah, Bob Caltieri, Republican sheriff, uh, property appraiser, Pinellas County official. So basically, people that he worked with, I'm assuming, in the Pinellas County Commission or the Pinellas County government. Then you got Mayor of Clearwater, somebody he probably worked with as part of the Pinellas County Commission as well, because Clearwater's in Pinellas County. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess it would kind of make sense. Um, although, I mean, you know, his talking points and political opinions over the last couple of years, I've been following him on, you know, social media and the news since he made his announcement for mayor back in 2018, 2019, whatever that was. And to me, he comes off as you know, a, I don't, a center left Democrat, I guess, mostly moderate, kind of like Charlie Crist, at least now. I mean, maybe Maybe he was more conservative back in the day. It wouldn't surprise me. Probably would have been better for him to head on address those other 2 points, but yeah. I do wonder, if keeping the raise is really worth it. If attendance is so low and it's going to require X amount of money to redevelop the whole site, like, does it draw in enough of a crowd? Not just to the stadium, but for the local businesses. Is it that noticeable? Obviously it does some, but could downtown survive without it? I guess is a question. Could that site be redeveloped to, something else, some other kind of, I don't know, community center or serious. It's a pretty big area, so you can do a lot with it. More commercial development, more whatever. Is it essential? I guess that is it worth it? I guess. We've been hearing about uh, the trout for years. Over a decade. I feel like about we're going to tear it down, or we're going to build a waterfront property or a waterfront place. Is it going to go to Tampa? Is it going to go to Montreal? I personally haven't been to a Rays game in years, and I don't. It's cool every once in a while. They make it to the worlds or the playoffs like every other year. It feels like, but you know, I don't know. It just doesn't ever. I don't feel like there's enough of a fan base, and I think part of it, you know, part of it I think is because a lot of people come to St. Pete from out outside the state. So my dad, for example, big Tigers fan. He goes to Rays games on occasion, or he used to. I don't know if he still does, but usually for matchups against the Tigers. I've got I know people who are Cubs fans or Yankees fans or whatever, and so there's some uh, there are some Rays fans. I consider myself a Rays fan, very passively, I guess, but from the sidelines. I don't know if the Rays left, it wouldn't bother me all that much. But that's just my own personal takeaway. I guess leave a comment if you want to keep the Rays and so forth. Yeah. This is actually a really good question. I feel like this is one of this will this could change the makeup of the city council on the next election. I mean, we're talking about changing essentially at large council elections to district only elections. So, for example, the people that voted in Robert Blackman, I believe it was District 1, I think, maybe 2, something like that. So he was voted in office by the entire city, but should this charter amendment pass, it will only be the people of his own district. So like if we look at all the people that are matched up right now, I mean, it would, yeah, I don't know. Like I think a lot of I don't know. This one's kind of conflicting me personally because I think it's good that districts be represented by people who are elected by their voters, essentially, that the people of the district. But at the same time, the council as a whole makes decisions for the entire city. So should the city not vote for the people that essentially govern it? Like both arguments, in my opinion, are valid. You wouldn't want every representative in Florida voted by the entire state of Florida. You'd want it voted by the people in the district that they represent. But I don't know. That's true. Voters will ultimately decide that. That much I can attest to. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know if tribalism is necessarily something that would come out of it. Uh, no more tribal than it is now. It's just that uh, I don't know. You'd have more. The people in the districts would have more representations. Basically, one of the positive ways to look at it. So, if the members of one district are generally overruled by the rest of the city, well, now they'll actually have the candidate that they want. And that's true for every district, all 8 of them. So, you know, I don't, if it passes, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just, I don't know which one's necessarily better. I think that'd be really interesting to see. I think that's something that might be worth looking more into. It's more walking. Anyway, it sounds stupid. More walking opportunities. Like imagine if a whole section of Central Avenue was just a walkway. You could, I don't know, maybe throw in a little one of those old sort of electric cars, not electric cars, but a trolley, something like that. The old trolley cars thingies. It's already very compact over there. You've got those like narrow parking spots, and then just the one way or the 2-way road, I guess, one lane. It's neat to drive down. I'll say that, and just look at the buildings and because it's a unique drive, but I don't know. I wonder if it can be improved. What even is millennial? I think I'm 26. I don't know. Like I'm right on the cusp of uh well, I think I'm technically millennial, but I barely can in some, depending on how you define millennial and what Gen Z or whatever. Uh I think it's Gen Z. And I don't know. I think they call people right on the border there Zillennials or something. Something weird like that. Although to be clear, I also have never ridden one of those scooters. For context, I think that's the city council or the city hall building right there, the municipal building. Those old buildings are pretty cool. So the funny thing about the raise is it's been an issue for uh, most of my adult life, if not all of it. All of it, I guess, yeah. But their contract ends in 2026. So it's entirely possible that whoever is elected might not even be mayor when that contract runs up. But, you know, who knows? I, don't- I don't know who told them it was a good idea to reference an endorsement from 20 years ago that doesn't exist. I, although I will agree with them that an hour is not enough time to lay out policy ideas. I really do like podcast settings with politicians. I know, yeah, I don't know how people generally feel about Joe Rogan, but he's had on a number of politicians over the last couple years. And in that environment where you're just kind of laid back, you don't have to get those sound bites in. You can actually explain your opinions, your political positions, and generally speaking, if you do anything performative, we'll kind of push back on it. I don't know if Joe Rogan might not be the best. I don't know what's the right term. Middleman or unbiased person. Just he's kind of gotten caught up in the politics of the world now. But that is a better way to digest and consume uh, the policy preferences and goals of these politicians as opposed to this performative stuff. November 2nd. Definitely don't want to miss that. I guess that's that then. Yeah, it's about what I expected. Probably let's talk about the Rays. I kind of expected more of that. The Rays are, I don't know, they're always the topic of conversation in St. Pete politics for some reason, which I mean, I understand why, but I think that's not the only, I don't think it's the biggest issue. Like, I don't know if it's on everybody's mind, especially nowadays, but I will be happy when that is done. So I guess that's all I got. Definitely don't forget to vote. It's important to vote. You got all these charter amendments. I've got a video up. If you need a breakdown of it, especially there's a couple of charter amendments that are kind of confusing, and I try to break them down in a way that's digestible, makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, definitely leave a comment if you disagreed with anything I said, or if you have anything to add. We can have a conversation and so forth. I think it's important to have a conversation about all this stuff. A lot of this is just my opinion, my takeaway. I'm not the I'm not the I'm not exactly right about everything. Most of what I'll probably put this in another video at some point, but most of my background, I guess, comes from like I study political science at the University of South Florida, so that's my base of knowledge from where that and the years of just following politics. Like I've been following politics long before I went to school for it, so um, and I try to be objective and unbiased. I'm sure I show a little bit of bias here and there, but I try not to be unfair. So um, yeah, give the video a like, subscribe if you want more of this. Got a lot more politics. There's some other stuff on my YouTube channel. It's not politics, but it's gonna be more and more politics moving forward, especially as 2022 comes around. A lot of big important elections coming up for Florida mostly, and nationally. I mean, the makeup of the House of Representatives and the Senate will be determined by elections next November. So, and also we've got redistricting happening in Florida due to the census. There's a lot going on. And we got the race for Pinellas County Congress person. Charlie Crist. He's running for governor. I'm sure you've probably heard of that by now. So his replacement, that's going to be big. There's a lot of people already running. So we will cover that soon. But thanks for watching, and have a good night or good morning, good day, whatever. And I'll see you next time.